Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast, where all accountants come to learn all the ways to grow your firm. And when you're in doubt, I am here to help you out. So if you're ready to learn and ready to grow your firm, then you're in the right place to sharpen your skills and increase your revenue. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Are you an accounting professional who worries about maybe where your next client may be coming from? Or maybe you just struggle with inconsistent cash flow? Or maybe it's about what we're talking about today and how to say no to those clients that are asking you for discounts or price shopping you. If you need some help, then head on over to 5stepstoabundance.com and get my 5 simple step process that accountants have used to go from waiting around for the busy season to really getting the higher value clients that really do pay you the fees you deserve and who actually appreciate the work that you do for them. So once again, head on over to 5stepstoabundance.com. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to thank our reviewer of the week. And our reviewer of the week goes to Gathery I. Inspirational and encourages us. This podcast gives me a reason to totally believe in the value I'm giving to my clients. Michelle always gives the right message to do it more and do it better. Thank you. Which is true, because today on the Abundant Accountant Podcast, we are talking about really believing in your value and having that confidence so you can learn how to turn away those clients that tell you they don't have a budget, that tell you they can't afford you, that tell you you're too expensive. And what's the way to do that powerfully where you can also maybe get a referral out of it or work with them in the future? So with that being said, I would love to hear from more of you, and I want to get to know more of you who listen in each and every week. So I invite you to hit that subscribe button, scroll down below, and leave a written review, because I do love reading all your reviews. And this allows me to keep delivering the content that you want and love. So again, hit that subscribe button, leave a written review and your honest opinion of how this show has helped you in your firm, in growing your business, in turning away the clients that you just don't want to work with. So thank you so much for sharing that. I will also take any written reviews in the future and feature them on a future podcast episode right here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And before I start today's show, I would like to thank our sponsor for today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero. As an accountant, when you join Xero, you'll gain access to a full range of practice management tools so you can manage your practice and your clients from almost anywhere. To learn more about building a better practice with Xero, visit Xero.com. That is Xero.com. And now, real quick, I just want to say hi to Denise. Thanks for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Yes, I'm Denise Mandeau. I'm Michelle's partner, and I am in Neptune, New Jersey, and love helping accountants build, have better practices, close more business, and that's why I love being on the Abundant Accountant.
Awesome. Okay. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where you have Michelle and Denise today, and we are talking about how to say no to clients with no budget or without a budget. And so many of accounting professionals really have come to us, and they're frustrated, right, by clients wanting a discount or constantly having to deal with those clients that are price shoppers. And if you don't know what that is, stick around because we're going to talk about it. And Denise and I get it. We've been there. We've been in your shoes, and saying no to potential business at first can be really difficult and hard. But it's the time that you probably want to actually start right now so that in the future you get paid what you're worth and never a penny less. And then you don't have to deal with that, like, oh my God, I can't believe I took on that client and they were such a pain in my butt, right? So in today's episode, Denise and I are going to give you 3 tips to help you stop wasting time with potential clients without a budget. So welcome, Denise, to the show. As always, it's an honor to have you here. And, we will be more consistent on being here on the Abundant Accountant podcast together with you all. But tip number one, and Denise, you tell me what your thoughts are on this one. In order to really avoid those clients that are price shoppers, the clients that are looking for a discount all the time, you really need to focus on your confidence. And what we found are that a lot of the accountants that once they start focusing on being confident, on their confidence, you get really aligned with what you're worth, right? And what your services and offerings are. And you don't really care about the discounts or what someone else might be charging. And the price surrounding your offerings, I've seen it even with the students that we've worked with increase, right? Like they've started to raise their prices. So what are like the one or two things that you've seen, Denise, as far as confidence relates to price shoppers, giving discounts away, and all that other nonsense that really gets us in the way from serving more clients?
Yeah, so that's really great. Confidence is key. Confidence is king. Confidence is king, right? So, when you think about it, most of the time when the accountants that we've met with before, or accounting professionals, most of the time what we find is that they really haven't defined what kind of people they really want to work with. So they're just more focused on, I got to get clients in. Right. So they're pretty much kind of taking everybody and anybody. And then they're sort of surprised when somebody's like, well, I'll work with you, but can you do any better than that? And they try to negotiate with them and all this kind of stuff. Right. And then they end up taking clients on that they really don't even want to work with. And then they feel resentful, because they're not getting paid their value.
Right. And there's this quote, right? And it's Bernard Hopkins says this quote: if you don't know your value, someone will end up telling you your value, and it will be less than what you're worth. And that's what I think a lot of times we see happening. You really need this client, but actually you needing that client is hurting you and them, because you're going to end up giving them a discount, or you're going to end up not charging them truly what you should have charged them. And at the end of the day, this is your firm. This is your accounting firm. This is your accounting practice. This is your accounting business, whatever you want to call it. And your prices and what you charge your clients is not determined by someone else's budget.
Yep. And when you're confident about your value, confidence is so attractive.
Right.
So you'll start attracting people who really are happy to pay you your value.
Yeah, it's true. And I know this is not the dating show, but lately I've been dating, right? And when you have a lot of confidence, it's very similar to your business. In business, you get paid a lot more, but in dating, people want to keep taking you out on dates. So confidence, it helps you in all sorts of ways that you just don't know. So Denise, for you, because someone listening might be thinking, well, Michelle and Denise, that all sounds great, but what do I do to get confident if I have zero confidence in the bucket right now? How do they fill their bucket up of confidence?
How they fill a bucket of confidence? Well, first of all, just really establishing, like, for yourself, like, well, what do I want to get paid? Who do I really want to work with, and really establishing that for yourself. And that's some of the things that we teach, right, in our class, because otherwise it's kind of like if you think of yourself like a radio frequency, right? If you don't know what channel you are, if you're country, rock, jazz, your tuner's kind of fuzzy, right? So then you're putting out these fuzzy signals. But when you're clear, you have like a clear frequency, then now it's like, what station you are, and you're not going to deviate from that because you don't want to be fuzzy. Yeah. And then people respect them. They're looking for, clear channel.
Yeah, no, I love that analogy, the clear radio station. So I know exactly what channel and frequency I'm on right now. I'm on a really high frequency, and I know high frequency and chill music don't go together, but I'm on high frequency and chill music right now. So for you, not you, Denise, but for the accountants listening right now, for you all, it's really about choosing your station. Which channel are you, or which two channels are you? So you're not in the middle where it goes, right? It's that fuzziness in between. I mean, I don't really listen to the radio anymore, but I remember back in the day, it used to have that fuzzy frequency. So I love that analogy. No, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so that's the first tip, right? The first tip is really focusing on your confidence and choosing your frequency and your radio station. At which stations are you going to tune clearly into so your clients and prospects know exactly who you're targeting and who you want to work with, right? Because it goes both ways. And then when you really know, those people aren't going to be looking for discounts.
Yeah, when you think about it, you could be like the QVC channel, or you could be like the Neiman Marcus channel, you know?
That's true. We are Neiman Marcus for anyone listening who might want to work with Denise and I. We're like high-end Nordstrom personal executive shoppers or Neiman Marcus. You know, we are not the cheap ones on the block, but we definitely get you lots of results. So that's, always, what do they say? And when you talk about dating, I've heard this before, high maintenance equals high performance. So we are definitely working with the high maintenance bunch, but we get top notch performance. So what do you serve in your business, right? Do you want to be, like you were saying, a lower end, or do you want to attract the higher end? So I think this kind of leads in also, Denise, into our next tip, which is know who you want to work with. Right? And this goes a little bit more in depth with tuning your channel, but maybe you can share a little bit on this because I love where you were going with that. Because if you don't get specific on who you're targeting, so if you don't actually dial in on the frequency to the radio station you want, and hopefully you're not on AM, but you're probably on FM at this point, you're going to spend more time, on people who either A, can't afford you, or, B, who can't even make a decision to even work with you, right? And those people are probably the ones in the fuzzy department. So what do you think about that on really how they can get more specific on who they want to work with in order to, again, eliminate those people who can't work with them because they don't have a budget, right? We're trying to learn how to say no to clients without a budget.
Yeah. So I think some of the things, and we've talked about this a lot, like some of the things that you could think about are like, what level of revenue do you want somebody to be already at before you even consider working with them? Yeah. I mean, that would be a good one, right?
That would be a good one.
Yeah. So what level of revenue, or, what kind of industry? Like we have a lot of people, that we talk to that are like, I don't want to work with restaurant people, right. They're not my client, or, or whatever it is. So you want to get clear on what industries, who do you enjoy working with? Who are your, you may want to think about who are your best clients that you just like, oh my God, I get to meet with that person today. Yeah, I love them. That you feel valued, you feel like you could do your best work with, like that. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's really great. So you might have heard it before, called a niche, right? So getting clear on your niche, getting clear on the level of revenue you want from a client to have. So if you are working with business owners at a minimum revenue of $1 million, I don't think they're going to be asking you for discounts. Right? But if you're working with business owners that are doing $50,000 a year in revenue, well, yeah, maybe they can't afford you. Maybe they can't afford a premium service. So think about that, because those are our limitations. And you get to set the limitations for yourself. So not only are you choosing a frequency, Denise, maybe you can think of another great analogy real quick, but the frequency is like, what exactly do you want and what station are you going to be so those clients know to tune into like 93.3 instead of getting 93.5, which is, right? That's that fuzzy part. But in addition to that, what services do you want to offer to them? And what's the revenue that you're looking for in your future clients? Because if you keep having to say no to clients because they don't have a budget, well, then maybe you need to look at your front end process to start attracting those clients that have zero budgetary issues.
Yeah. Yeah. I got another good one for you.
Yes, I'm ready. I think everyone else is ready too.
So if you don't really get clarity around this, right? It's kind of like getting in the car with a full tank of gas and you don't punch anything in the GPS.
Yeah.
What happens, right? You're going to either stay still because you don't know where you're going,
right?
Or you're going to put the pedal to the metal and you're just going to kind of drive around until you run out of gas and not really get what you want. So by really getting clear on who you want, who your destination is, who is the destination client, that will help you when you're at a networking meeting or, a call comes in like, hey, I want to know what you do or who you, like whatever, you'll be prepared to make sure that that's somebody you want to work with.
And I think that's really important. So basically thinking about your GPS, what address are you going to put into that GPS? Where do you want to go? Because if you don't have a direction, just like if you don't have a frequency on your radio station that you're tuning into every single day, then you're lost. And no wonder you have to say no to a lot of clients that have no budget, right?
Or maybe you're saying yes to some and you're lowering your fees because, you're like, oh, well, okay, I got to help everyone, Well, you don't. That's where you're going to run out of gas.
You don't have to help everyone. And Denise and I can't help each of you, but we do have this podcast here to help some of you that we can't work with in our smaller groups, right? So also, which brings me to another point too, bonus tip. In the future, even if someone's not a good fit right now, they might be in a year or two. Right? So even if your GPS isn't taking you to your exact address and destination, and you're trying to up-level your destination and get to Fiji, those Fiji clients will be there in the future. But then you have to do proper follow-up, and you can listen to that at a different podcast episode. If you just go in your iTunes and search follow-up, you'll definitely find that one. And Denise, didn't we work with someone that was doing this, right? He figured out exactly who he wanted to work with, and it paid off quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, there's a few people, but, I could just think of recently, one of our students that just graduated recently, Linda.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Linda was like taking everybody and anybody and, was like wasting her time. And then she really figured out her GPS.
Right.
And she stopped taking people, she like had a system in place. Now she stops taking people that just aren't a fit for her. And she just landed her biggest client, biggest one, like I think it was like a $31,000 commitment.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, and it is huge because when you go from people wanting to ask you for discounts or, well, why are you raising your prices? Because last year you only did this, to having a 180 shift. And the 180 shift for her was now, an annual client that's going to commit about $30,000 in revenue. That's a massive shift. And for Linda, it's extremely easy for her to say no to clients that A, don't have a budget, or B, are price shoppers or asking for discounts. It gets really simple once you make the shift in your firm because it's a mindset shift. And if you think about it, like I said, if they don't meet your GPS requirements, your frequency requirements today, they might be a great client in the future. So again, that's additional revenue in the future. And since we talk a lot about increasing revenue here on the Abundant Accountant podcast, keep that in mind, because just because it's a no today doesn't mean it's a no in the future. And this actually happened to us. So Scott, if you're listening, this story is about you. Scott was an ideal client for us. And he actually told us, no, it's not really a great time. And 3 or 6 months later, he came back. He actually paid us more. He did not get his empowered decision bonus discount, but he actually paid us more, got more value out of it. And he ended up doing over like $140,000 in revenue with us in a 2-month period. And then recently, wow, he sent me a text message that he did I've never seen this before, but a client that was worth $450,000 for one engagement. So kudos to you, Scott. It does pay off. But again, not all clients are going to be a yes right now, but some will be later. But make sure to create a follow-up system.
And to your point, Michelle, like when Scott came to us, he didn't have the confidence yet to be able to even land a client like that, right?
That's true. Yeah, he had to fill up his confidence bucket.
Yep. He had to know his worth.
He did. And he got it. And he figured it out too, right? Pretty quick. So this leads us to tip number 3. So just to recap, tip number 2 is know who you want to work with, right? Like, what are you going to punch in your GPS? Where are you going? Because you need to know. If you don't know, you got to pick and pick something. Because if you don't pick anything, it's worse off, right? So our tip number 3 to really know when and how to say no to clients without a budget or with no budget for that sake is stick to your boundaries. And your boundaries meaning more specificity in the types of clients that you want to work with, right? So I would create yourself today like an action item of what are 3 boundaries that you can create around the types of clients that you want to work with. For example, one of the boundaries that Denise and I have when working with clients is everyone pays us upfront. Granted, we deviated from this boundary a couple weeks ago, and it's now driving us crazy. Granted, it's okay. We're going to make it through. But one of our boundaries that we will never deviate from again is that we get paid 100% upfront. Denise and I do not like to be a collection agency, which I don't think any of you want to be a collection agency either. And not being a collection agency actually allows you to provide better service to your clients. You don't have any accounts receivable anymore. You don't have to chase anybody for payments. You can actually just focus on them and serving them and helping them, right? So Denise, what about for you and from what you've seen with the people we've worked with, a couple other really good tidbits as it relates to creating your boundaries, but ultimately sticking to it? Because you and I, hey, by the way, no one's perfect. Denise and I still aren't perfect. And we deviated from this and it's, driving us, like I said, slightly crazy. But what other tips do you have for the accountants who are listening today as it relates to sticking to their boundaries so they really have the confidence to say no to the clients that don't have a budget?
Yeah, that's great. And I think, one thing you can do is one of the boundaries I know, like even, that we've seen over and over again is people who aren't willing to give you the information that you need to really help solve their problems. If they're not willing to do that in a timely manner, then you might not want to consider them as a client, right?
Right.
Or maybe it's a boundary of they have to be in business a certain amount of years or something like that. That might be another one to stick with, right? So, it's really what's personal to you and what feels right for you. And once you do that, once you have your boundary set, you got to stick to it because otherwise, and then we're like, oh, wow. We made an exception and now we know, we haven't done that in like 2 years and now we did it. And then we're like, okay, now we know why we shouldn't be doing that.
Right. And also another boundary that you might want to add into your repertoire is pre-qualifying clients. Because if someone's not willing to talk to you or answer a few simple questions, then why do you want to invest time with people that might not be actually a good place for your frequency when you turn into your radio dial, right? Like if you're choosing 93.3 and this guy is a 93.0, then you can quickly pre-qualify clients to see if they're a good fit or not, which will also eliminate having to say no to those people down the road when it gets time to invest with your services and have to tell them no. Because Denise and I are all about creating more efficiencies for you, saving time because time you don't get back. And also time is your most valuable asset. There's nothing more valuable than your time. So keep that in mind.
Your time and your knowledge, right?
Yes, your knowledge. So you don't ever want to give out your knowledge for free either, because that knowledge is your inventory, and your inventory is very precious. And we'll talk about that another day. But let's say you have to say no to a client, right? They don't meet your budget. They're never going to be a good fit, or maybe they'll be a good fit in the next year. It's always really good to refer them out to somebody. You know, you don't want to just leave them hanging, I call that. I don't know how you can relate that, Denise, to your frequency and your Waze or GPS analogy. But I like to just say, how would you want to be treated from somebody? And thinking about it from that point of view, because you want to refer them out to someone who can service them right now, even if it's H&R Block, you know, like whatever, or the Tax Republic people, or I don't know what they're called, but you know what I mean? They're really cheap. Even if that is your end resort, just send them there, because at least they'll get serviced and they feel like, you know, you've taken care of them, because people want to be cared for, and it will help you in the future when you ask, number one, for referrals, and number two, they might be a great client for you in a year or two. So you never know.
It's like putting savings in your relationship bank, right?
Yes, keep going. I like this.
Yeah, it's like you're storing up future relationships. You're still giving value. You're just referring them to somebody else for that value because it's not your value, right? So you're kind of storing up,
True.
you know, in your bank, right?
True.
And creating relationship. And when it is appropriate, they might be a fit for you, or they might know someone and go, you know, that gal, that guy, they were really nice. You know, they really took care of me.
Right.
You know what? Maybe I'm not the right fit, but I know Joe. Joe has a business, and Joe is, you know, seems like that would be a good fit. I'm going to recommend them.
That is very true. Yeah. It's your relationship bank. It's your piggy bank for relationships. And your relationships also equal your net worth and your network in the future, right? So always keeping those relationships top of mind. And a little extra bonus tip, right? Because we want to focus on value instead of pricing. A lot of these people with no budget or the price luck, you know, shoppers or window shoppers, whatever you want to call, they skip the value department. They can't even hear you. I felt like, and I've had this, and I'm sure you've had it. Denise and I do a lot of enrollment calls all day too. But those people, when they're just like stuck on what's it going to cost, what's the price, they can't even hear anything else. And to be honest, I don't want to work with anyone like that. So that's on our boundary list. Like if that's all you're going to talk about is price, then we're probably not a good fit to work together anyway. And there's really a difference between people who don't want to pay your price because number one, they might not understand your values. So you want to check, did you explain it well? Is it on your website? Like, have you done a good job articulating what you do and the value you provide? Or is it that the people are simply just too small of an organization or a business where they simply can't even afford your services? And you get to see people's financials. You get to see people's tax returns. So you know what their cash flow situation is. Or it might be to the point where they're managing their cash so poorly that with your help, you can actually free up some cash for them to afford you. So there's some really unique things that you can do in your industry to show value. But again, if you focus on value and not the price, that will help people, right, Denise?
100%, 100%.
What are some other things that they can do? Some other little extra bonus tips? Because we shared with you the top 3 for sure. But there's a few other things that you can do to really, again, focus on the clients that you want, work on that confidence, and start to see the shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you always really are trying to get clear on what their problems are that you can solve and that, you know, fit your criteria, fit your boundaries, it's a safe, that's really the lane you want to be in, right? And that's what's going to help you not, you know, take on clients, like be able to say to no to people that aren't, you know, that don't have a budget for you, but then also, you know, be clear for yourself and not let the tail wag the dog. Don't let them determine what your value is, what your price is, right? You set your prices, and then if it makes sense and you've articulated it well, And usually that's, speaking into a problem that you can solve, because people want solutions, right? That's what they want to buy. They don't want to buy, hourly rates and things like that. They want to buy solutions.
It's really important, because accepting anything less than your worth or saying no to someone who is not actually a good fit will increase your value. So keep that in mind. And this actually happened in our class just this week, right? A lot of the students that we work with, and for each of you listening, you might have this in your mind, but you think your clients, like one, for example, needs tax planning. Your clients don't even know what that means, everybody, right? So if you actually focus on the value that you bring, which is actually the result that you're going to deliver, that matches like what Denise was saying, a solution to something that they want to fix, that's the value. It's not the vehicle to get that result is either a tax plan, a tax consulting engagement, a pumpkin plan if you're profit first, or a profit first plan, or, all those services that you offer is actually just the vehicle to get your clients the end result, that they focus on that value. Did I get that right? I think so.
Yeah. And you don't want to, you want to take the time, right? You don't want to rush through. You want to take the time to get the answers to your questions, not just answer their questions, answer your questions to make sure that they're a good fit. And, sometimes you need some more information. They need some more information. Then you'll have clarity and you can figure out whether you want to move forward or not.
Right. And I think we had a student do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Why don't you share about Diane and Sheila, what happened with them?
Yeah. So it's a really fun story, because Diane is CPA and Sheila is her assistant. So if any of you listening have an assistant, this will probably resonate with you. And one of the big things that they figured out together was that Diane was spending and investing time with this client. We'll call client Bob. And Bob wanted to move forward, right? And then all of a sudden, Bob sent this email with all these concerns, a lot of the concerns relating around price. And what they did was they took the time to hear Bob out, and they answered every single question in his email in a very strategic way, in a way that he felt valued, he felt heard, and Sheila, the admin assistant, was able to communicate that so well, got the information that he was looking for, addressed his price objection, shared with them how they're different, did not focus on the price, but they focused on the value of the solution that they were going to help in order to get Bob's results, because Bob's results were the most important thing. That through email, done in a strategic, specific way, got them a new client, a signed engagement letter, and payment all overnight when they were sleeping. The next morning when they got there to the office, they had a new client. And this guy basically said, you know what? I felt valued. I felt heard. You didn't rush me. And I've been interviewing you and like 8 other accounting firms, and I decided to choose you both. And I just thought that's so important, because when we focus on the value and not the price, even if it's a price objection, that's how you can convert a client. So, think about that today in your business. Where are there maybe 3 clients that you can follow up with, right? So, and also think about how you can use these tips to stop wasting time with potential clients who truly, honestly can't afford you, or you just don't want to work with them. It's that simple. So those are our tips. Now, the biggest thing is you can listen to Denise and I all day long, but it's time to put something into action. So I invite each of you to take action today. Like I said, maybe go choose 3 prospects that you've been dealing with this issue on, and maybe try something that we talked about today. Think about the frequency and which channel you're choosing to be on your radio station, and think about what address you're typing into your GPS and that you want to focus on. And anything else, Denise?
No, I think that's really good summation there.
Summation? Okay.
And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say no if somebody's not a good fit. Like, don't worry. There's plenty of other people that can use your services. Like, don't be
There's
afraid.
plenty of fish in the sea. We come from the abundant side of things here at the Abundant Accountant Podcast. So I just want to say it was an honor to be here with each of you. Thank you all so much for listening, and have an amazing day. Thank you all so much for joining me here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast today. Please also remember to hit that subscribe button and leave a written review, and share with me, how are you going to take your frequency to a different channel? What are you going to be typing into your GPS? And if you are an accounting professional who sometimes worries about, where that next client is going to come from, you don't want to work with those price shoppers or people who are asking you for a discount, make sure to head on over to 5stepstoabundance.com and get my 5 simple step process that accountants have used to go around from, waiting for busy season to really getting those clients that they love, those higher value clients that are happy to pay you those fees you deserve and who actually appreciate the work you do for them. So once again, head on over to 5stepstoabundance.com. Type in your email address and your name. I'll send it over to you for free. It's a free guide. And again, thank you so much for listening. If you have a moment, feel free to leave that written review, and I will highlight it in a future episode right here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Have an amazing day. Today's episode was brought to you by Xero. Remember to visit Xero.com. That is Xero.com. Xero provides the tools and human touch to manage all the elements of your practice, including a dashboard with a clear and centralized financial overview, the ability to collaborate in real time with clients, smart customized reports with links to source transaction, and free 24/7 support. Once again, Xero.com. That's Xero.com.